Psst, check this out.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Backchannel. In today's episode, I want to dive into just a thing that came to my mind, as they so often do, and as it so often leads to content like this. But I want to dive into something that popped into my mind as I was going through my day during a business trip to San Francisco. Basically, what happened was I was working out of a random cafe in the Mission District. And I'll say this, as much sort of hate around the lifestyle and other things that I give towards San Francisco because of all the times that I'd spent there, etc., it still is undefeated when it comes to the best place to build a tech company, where you raise capital. And here's the main thing is the density of that city in terms of our ecosystem, startups, investors, partners, etc., is crazy. I have so many examples of me going throughout my day, either eating or hanging out or working in public spaces, and just unexpectedly running into some great people or making connections, etc. That kind of density does not exist in many places. Maybe New York City, but when it comes to startups, San Francisco is undefeated. Now, the thing that I realized or that popped in my head was I happened to be working out of a cafe in the Mission District. And I look over my shoulder and Anne Miraco from Floodgate is sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, I need to go say hi to Anne. Go over, say hi to Anne. We're talking, et cetera, blah, 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 going back and forth, catching up, and ask her a little bit about the deals she's looking at, the types of companies she wants to connect with. And she sent something and I realized, oh, the founder that I had just met would be a perfect connection for her, and wasn't necessarily going through my Rolodex in my head of all the different companies that I've met over the last 6 months and spent time with and been able to perfectly index that memory and connect it to Anne. Same thing. Anne goes back to me and says, blah, 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 blah. By the way, just yesterday, I met up with Fabri Kara and he's doing this. He has a similar model. Maybe you should connect with him. By the way, I'm sure she's met with thousands of people over the last 6 months. No joke. And there are probably better connections to make for me than Fabri, although I love Fabri. And the thing that I've thought about a lot is this concept or this realization. So much of a venture capitalist's business is run on LIFO, LIFO. I don't know if you know that acronym from computer science names or anything, but it's a processing flow that stands for last in, first out. Essentially, recency bias. The thing that you process first is the last thing that touched your mind. And I can't emphasize how much this is the case when it comes to VCs. The things that I remember so much are VCs will often grab coffees or have meals with other venture capitalists because, they're trying to build that connection, but they're also trying to share deal flow, et cetera. And you'll sit down with a business partner or a venture capitalist and just start talking about companies, talking about companies they should know about. But again, it's not always the companies that would be the perfect fit for that audience or that person. It's the company you just had the board meeting with yesterday. It's the company that just emailed you in the morning and it's now top of mind. And, oh, I remember this. Now I need to remember to, or I need to bring this up to the person I'm talking to. This is the company you should think about. And it's such an ineffective and ill-targeted way of processing things, but I just don't think there's a solution to this. It is just the way the flow of information works. It is because there isn't an AI model plugged directly into VC's heads yet, although I think there are proxies that people are working on. The founders I see that do best in company building and fundraising have a secret weapon. Their secret weapon is a community of people, of experts, of peers in the startup industry that they can ask for help from at any time, guide them through processes like fundraising. I wanted to make that easier for everyone else to have access to by building the Adamant fundraising program and community. This gives you access to 75 different training videos around the fundraising process to give you that expert starting point around how to actually execute fundraising, and then access to a community where we host live pitch deck teardowns and office hours every week to make sure that you can ask the minute questions on how your deck should be better, how you should reform your strategy, how you should answer investors who are reaching out to you that you don't know how to answer. So if you want to check that out, if you want to get the secret weapon that I think a lot of the best founders have, check out adamantfundraising.com and join us today. Anyways, it's just an aha, or like a, man, had no idea that that was the case, that I think founders would appreciate. It's like, I think from a logical point of view, you'd be like, they must have a CRM system, or they must have a database of all the companies that they have stack ranked by XYZ, so that when they go to any of these meetings, which could be very valuable for both parties, they would have a better matching system, but they just don't. So, one, pretty cool to learn about, right? And two, maybe we should talk about how this impacts how you think about interacting with VCs, how you think about starting with fundraisers or prepping for fundraisers. And maybe there are a couple of things that we should talk about. I think the first concept is, if you know that investors or people that run in these circles are sharing what they just heard about, or sharing what's stuck in their mind most effectively, there's a recency bias around what sticks in their mind, but there's also a stickiness bias, right? This is why it's so important to be able to communicate what you do extremely simply, extremely punchy, and extremely memorably, because your message doesn't end at the person that you're talking to. Your message might need to be relayed to that investor's partners in their fund. You might need to be telling a founder friend what you do, and that's stay in the top of their mind, so that when they do run into investor friends of theirs, they can relay that message. That stuff and that transference of what you do, or the fact that you should be somebody considered, doesn't happen very easily if your message or the description of what you do is convoluted, uses, SAT words and a lot of random concepts that are hard to understand, at first blush, but also hard to relay. So really focus on this, because it matters more than you think. What else? Surface area before you need money. Understanding that the different ways that people are going to run into you will be the different ways that you pop to the top of the stack. So if you have content that you can share, if you're engaging with people in real life and in events, these are elements and aspects of your life that create surface area for the right connections to happen and for investors to think about you appropriately. One small caveat when it comes to creating surface area, creating content, and posting, which can help you stay top of mind. But one thing I always say is, make sure that the stuff that you're doing is not primarily for fundraising. So posting for fundraising purposes can come off as like focusing on the wrong things. And honestly, it is. But posting because you know that your posting will get you connected to potential business development opportunities, to potential customers. Posting might help you source the next hire or the talent that you're trying to get into the company. All these things, which are good reasons to post, good reasons to create more surface area, also happen to be the things that venture capitalists see. So think about that as you create surface area. And then second, density, proximity compounds. So density and proximity compounds. What do I mean by that? But if you are in the opportunities to interact with people who can share your message, it will go a long way, especially if it can come to and hit a investor's head, considering they are last in first out processors. So what does that mean? Well, if you live in San Francisco, or some of the big cities where startup ecosystems exist, you're in luck. If not, you may consider spending time in these ecosystems so you can generate the network that spreads this message more easily. Remember, again, there is a real reason for you to do that outside of fundraising, which is meeting business partners, meeting the talent that you want to hire, etc. This then extends to the value within investors and the value within fundraising. Okay. And the last thing I'll say around this is don't confuse attention and staying top of mind with manipulation. The main thing here is not to say that you should be manipulating how you go about your day, how you run into VCs, or the random things that you post. It is much more just for an awareness of how information flows, how tasks and deals get processed by venture capitalists, so that as you're thinking about what is happening in the landscape of you and your preparation for fundraising and your execution of fundraise, you can actually make more pointed decisions on what you do. All right. I will probably have some more interesting thoughts on investor psychology and elements that you might not understand about how VCs work. If you have any questions or things that you want me to cover, let me know. And I'll see you on another episode of the Backchannel.